Now listen, if you're the kind of person who thinks adding Coke to a 15-year-old single malt is acceptable, you might just be the reason this podcast exists. Welcome to the Non-Chill Filtered Podcast, where we unpack whiskey like it's emotional baggage.
And welcome back to Non-Chill Filtered. We are rolling into episode 2 now, but I have my good friend Jeremy, aka the Bourbon Guide, on. Good afternoon, sir. It's like 4 a.m. in the morning here, but coming to you at.
Yeah, we're at 2 p.m. over here, so I'm rolling today.
I love it. Anyone that isn't watching, because it's typically audio based, but Jeremy does have a cigar in his hand, and he looks like he is loving life. Just to keep it on and off brand, I've just whipped myself up a little bourbon cream. What is it? Just coffee and just to get it started. I don't know if I should be putting it in the milk frother, but it definitely slaps. I'm all about it.
Oh, the bourbon cream kills, man. That stuff is amazing. It is the best coffee creamer. And just so you know, in case you can't find some Buffalo Trace bourbon with a little bit of French vanilla creamer, liquid creamer. Yeah, that gets about the same mileage.
Because I don't know if you guys have a famous ad in Australia, and they were talking about the different kinds of milk. Like this guy goes into a little servo and he's looking for milk, and this bird is rattling off all these different kinds of milk, but he just wants milk that tastes like real milk. And I don't think you guys have milk that tastes like real milk. It's all I don't even know what you have. It's all like you guys call coffee creamer, but then you've also got, what is it, Coffee Mate or something? And it's like a...
So I don't use coffee. I use half and half for mine. You can get like what they would call whipping cream here, and that's going to be just about the thickest kind of milk you can get from the store. Whipping cream that's what a lot of the bakers and chefs and pastry chefs and stuff will use. It's a little heavy for coffee because it just sinks right to the bottom. Half and half does really, really good because it's half, I think, whole milk and half
cream?
That whipping cream. Yep.
Okay. I guess a track, right? But you mix that, because I'm trying to see if I got any on. I do.
Oh. I need to pour. What are we pouring?
Yeah, I've got bourbon cream because I was like, well,
because you're at 2 a.m. in the morning, or 4 a.m.
Messaging Jeremy, I was like, yeah, do you know what? I'll get up at 4. I'll just go for a run and come back.
Get up at 4. Go for imagine that in certain neighborhoods, someone running through the neighborhood at 4 a.m. might have listed a phone call.
I've always got like a story of me when I was at my old place and the amount of times I was stopped by the cops, and they just like grabbed me. I was just running down the main street and I'm wearing all black, and they're like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing out? And they'd search me and I'd have literally nothing on me except my AirPods and my watch attached to me. And I'm just like, what are you doing up? Why are you out and about at this time? It's like, well, got to get to work. So stats on board.
I go to work early. I got to get my fit in.
Exactly right. But let me, I'll kick off to the scheduled part of this podcast. But please get yourself something in the glass to start with. What are you vibing?
What are we thinking? I mean, who are we gonna put front and center?
Well, we both have an incredible love for wilderness, and you're
gonna have to twist my arm with that then.
Yeah, because
all right. Remember, what's my rating on this? Am I PG-13 or where are we at?
No, go hard in the paint.
Oh, perfect. All right. Yeah, absolutely. So this is Wilderness Trail 8-year wheated, personally autographed by Shane Baker and Dr. Pat Heiss. So a little bit of
beautiful. Because you are, I'd say, good friends. One of my original runs to Kentucky and getting to hang out with you, like the incredible lineup we had at Wilderness. It's just mind-blowing to taste different
that was
kinds
a
of things.
ridiculous lineup. That's when we first tasted that 4-grain together.
Yeah.
And then we brought them down to Copper, and what was it? Me, you, Lahana, Pat, and Mac. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then the police chief showed up, and it
Yeah,
was
Tony.
wild. It was a wild kind of night. Yeah, I couldn't even believe I made it home. I definitely shouldn't have driven home, but you live and you learn, and the statute of limitations and everything else. But Jeremy, please kick us off. How did you get into bourbon? What is your comic book 01 origin story on this one?
So my origin story. So what I tell people is I never had the wild college drinking years. I started drinking after I had children.
Understandable.
It's causation
I've met your
correlation.
children.
I've not delved too deeply in it to find out which came first. But at the time, everything was craft beer. And dove into that whole scene, was having a lot of fun there. And then seemingly overnight, everything turns into an IPA. Y'all, I have functioning taste buds, so that was not going to work for me. So with that, I started kind of getting into red wines and was having fun there. But I'm getting wine headaches and heartburn. And I'm like, look, if this stuff is going to have after effects later, I don't want anything to do with it. And that was when one of my friends handed me my very first sip of bourbon. And it just happened to be not this specific bottle, but Weller Antique 107 was my very first sip of bourbon neat. And yeah.
I'm so sorry that was your first sip of bourbon, though.
My wife tells me the way to get out of a hole is to put down the shovel. But I'm convinced one more shovelful will get me through.
I'm with you. I was having the same conversation last night. Oh.
But from there, all right, you remember the movie Ratatouille?
Yeah.
I know it's a Disney Pixar movie or whatever.
No, I love it.
There's a scene in that movie where the food critic takes a bite of the food and he goes back to his childhood. And not to be too cheesy and everything else, that was me when I tasted that Antique 107. Only for me, I was holding that little piece of butterscotch candy in the little. We call it penny candy over here because you used to be able to buy them for a penny, and it was the little Brock's disc that was in yellow cellophane, and
it's like a Werther's Original for us or something.
Yeah, Werther's Original is rich people granddad candy. So
okay.
Around here, it was always we always around. I think now they call it like church lady candy. That kind of cheap butterscotch.
Yeah.
And it was always one of my favorites. But I knew once I tasted Antique 107, I was like, okay, that candy was just whiskey flavored candy. There's a reason they call it butterscotch. And at that point, it just made sense to me. And I really started to like bourbon. And
butterscotch, butter bourbon. I get it.
God, it's been, the last 15 years or so. I'd have to go back and pull out a calendar, but it's been about the last 15 years. And started dabbling a lot, just kind of hitting there. I've always loved to cook and prepare things, and I've always loved food. So I've always loved the sensory aspect of it. But I'm ADHD, which means I'm going to rabbit hole into every fucking thing I can look at. And so it just really tripped a lot of triggers for me. And straight in I went. And that was just kind of there, kind of dabbling for a while. And didn't really do a whole lot big. I was developing a little bit of a collection. Modest. 20, 30 bottles, something like that. Just modest. Something I could carry around a couple times. It wasn't big. And then 2020 hit. And, we all know what happened
then. Nothing Australia yet, let me tell you.
Yeah, right? And so when 2020 hit, we were all sitting in our living rooms rediscovering our liquor cabinets.
Good times.
And in doing so, I was in real estate at the time, and I had a mentor, because I'm kind of stressing out over the whole thing, self-employed, over here in the United States, it's all self-employed realtors. And I'm trying to figure out, with the whole world shut down, how am I going to pay to feed my family? And I had a mentor who said, hey, he's a He was my real estate coach. He was really big in California. And he told me, he said, hey, I'm partners in on this whiskey brand that we're doing, and it's called the Duke. And let's see, where's my Duke? Maybe I should have started with that one today.
No, like it all ebbs and flows. See, now you lean into the Duke. See, I'm all about
see,
it.
right here, I got the Duke. So he said, what if I send you a bottle? Would you do a review on it? I was like, well, yeah. So he sent me a bottle. This is the replacement, and I contacted a friend of mine who was front house manager. That was Lahana down at Copper and Oak here in Danville, and we get down there, and I say, hey, look, I know you guys are looking to stay in front of people. You guys are looking to keep marketing going the same as I. You like bourbon. I like bourbon. Let's do a review on this Duke Founders Reserve Grand Cru. And she said, let's do it. So went and got a $30 tripod from Walmart and used my iPhone and drug it down there. And it was awful. That podcast, do not watch that video. It's terrible.
I will have to link it in the description.
So bad.
I'm all about the storytelling of the first episode. Like, if you ever watch some of mine that I've put out from, like, I guess the first one, it looks like I'm a hostage. And it's like a...
I remember those. You used to do it straight for the Instagram, and I'd always check. You'd always check your watch because I always thought you were seeing your video on your watch as well to make sure you were either in frame or in time. One. Some of those early ones, man, it's like cringe factor 10. And,
absolutely.
God, but it was so bad. And after we finished, I was packing up my stuff, and I looked at Lahana and I said, we need to do this again. So we weren't able to do every week at that point, but we were doing every other week. We'd go down there, we'd meet at about 10 a.m., shoot the podcast down there, do 2 or 3 bourbons at a time, and my Mondays were wrecked straight out of the gate. And so that really started to grow. We were building immediately in town because people knew us and everything. People were being supportive. Everybody was staying home, so there was nothing else to do but doom scroll and watch videos. And so things really started to get going, and we really started building this thing out. Now, we have Wilderness Trail right here in town. We're friends with Dr. Pat Heiss and Shane Baker. Principal partners in Wilderness Trail. They were the original owners. Campari came in, the whole 9 yards, you get it. But so Pat was one of our first connections. And he was like, hey, come on out here. We'll do some stuff. And all of a sudden, he's opening doors for us and getting introductions for us. All of a sudden, we've got a body of work through our podcast, through our videos that we're working on, that we were able to send to other distillery owners, brand owners, and whatnot, marketing folks, brand ambassadors, about, hey, this is how we're going to treat you in our videos and everything else. And that really started to open doors. So for about 3 years, we were just all over the place for 3 years. And that's really when you and I started connecting, because I was making content like crazy. You were too. And I mean, was still doing my real estate business back then, and really started getting into a lot of places. We went to Spirits of French Lick, did RD1, Mark and Sherry Carter at Old Carter, now just Mark Carter. I mean, we were just getting into places that I never thought we would get into. And it was great. We really had a lot of fun. A little ways into it, talking with my mentor and whatnot, I began to, he was like, all right, you guys are having a lot of fun. You guys are out there, you're getting things done. He said, how's this helping your real estate business? I was like, well, that's a good question. So
it's clearly not.
It's clearly not. We were just having a lot of fun. It was getting my name out there and getting my face out there, and that's fine.
You're establishing that brand as the Bourbon Realtor, right? Which is
right.
Purely important for being self-employed. And I guess, pushing that brand aspect, right? Because you want to be referred to as the Bourbon Realtor. You want to be people to be talking about you, consuming your content across all platforms.
Right.
Just like,
And that was really the key. He was saying things like, what if you do half real estate, half bourbon on your podcast? I'm like, that's not going to fly. Not with the audience for Bourbon and Whiskey podcasts. I said, that's just not going to fly. I said, but what I can do, nobody else calls themselves a Bourbon Realtor. And nobody, quite honestly, the realtor name is actually a registered trademark. So me doing it anyway, but I was a realtor at the time. So I walked the line.
Play ball.
Yeah, and so I would introduce all my videos with, "Hey, I'm Jeremy. Welcome to Barstools and welcome to Barstools and Bourbon. I'm Jeremy, the Bourbon Realtor." That was it. And that was the only time I would talk about real estate in my podcast, because I would very much keep it whiskey centric. And that's really what I wanted to do, is keep it that way. That really started to help. Now, Lahanna got really super busy. They opened up a second restaurant, so she had to step away. And completely understandable. She got super, super busy. She's got 2 young kids. My kids are self-maintaining. So that wasn't much a factor for me. So that was really our first big shift, was when Lahanna stepped away. Late 21, I got a bad case of COVID. And I was down, I had double pneumonia, did the whole thing. I didn't have a good sense of taste and smell for almost 6 months afterwards. You got an exclusive here now, because I've never gone public with any of that. And it was during that time I was just doing mostly photography as far as my bourbon content, some videos, some side videos and stuff like that. But reviews for me were pointless during that time. Absolutely pointless. And so I really had to dial back with those. And it was like, all right, well, how am I going to refocus this? That whole time, I'm diving straight into basically all things bourbon and whiskey. Again, ADHD, feeding my dopamine, just killing it, chasing every single little thing I could, and learning everything I could about bourbon. And so I really became a student of it. It was during that time that this whole monstrosity behind me really started to develop. And I really started to think about what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be in this bourbon world, and say, all right, what is this going to look like? Because I had a lot of time to reflect on it. Coming out of that, getting my sense of taste back and my sense of smell back finally, then it was like, all right, how is this reinvention going to happen? I worked I finished out 22 in real estate, and then I start seeing some shifts market-wise in real estate, but then industry-wise as well, whereas our industry is being reshaped over here. At that point, I'm riding pretty good. I'm in a decent place where I can step out. I transition out and start doing some other work. In the meantime, getting back into podcasting, but still diving deep into bourbon and whatnot. From there, those relationships just kept connecting. And it's just gotten to the point now where, I don't even think about who I know in bourbon. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, I do know them. And all of a sudden I'm able to make connections. And it's been that whole side, building it through the bourbon realtor side of things. Now that's transitioning into bourbon guide type of stuff on this side, where, I do work for a major distillery. I am a tour guide at a major distillery here in Kentucky. And I'm not here as an official representation of that. Otherwise, I'd be in uniform. But anyway.
Yeah, you have to get that plug in. You're just like,
you gotta get
now
that
I've got to.
It's like, all right. So when the corporate guys go reviewing your video, they're going to be like, oh, okay, all right.
19-minute mark, by the way. That's the, just let them know it's like 19-minute mark. We said the disclaimer. Sign it off, push it out.
Yep. So hold on, let me get this warmed up again. There we go. So during that time, I'm really starting to dial in on who I want to be as a bourbon person, what kind of content I want to do. Every other content creator, just about every other big one that is all making, thousands of dollars a month, tens of thousands of dollars a month through Patreon, through
OnlyFans.
sponsorships and everything else. They're all chasing the big releases, the unicorns and all this kind of stuff that 90% of the bourbon collectors are never going to taste. And so I really stepped back and said, I don't connect with, as amazing as it is to see a podcast from some of these very popular guys about the last drop, which is an extremely exclusive whiskey that gets released every couple of years. I'm watching those things and I'm like, I feel like they're describing unicorn farts to me, because it's not anything I'm ever going to be able to experience. So what's the point in telling everybody else about it? Are you full of shit? Or do you know what you're talking about? Is this actual? And what's the point in it? It's like somebody talking about, hey, I just drove this brand new Bentley. That's cool.
Yeah, but
Like, what do you drive? You drive a Toyota. Great. Tell me about your Toyota, because I might actually buy one of those.
That's spot on.
That's really what my content became about. And even when you go through my bar, people will say, "Oh man, you don't have any Pappy." Right. Because I don't need unicorns on my bar in order to be able to have a really good time and appreciate bourbon in a lot of big ways. To chase those big things for me just doesn't, it's not the thrill for me. If I find one at retail while I pick it up and I have to take it from my wife when I get back home, sure. But I'm not going out and spending secondary on those things. I just won't. And so at that point, it was like, what's available? What will people actually be able to buy? And on a regular basis, and then go from there. And so that has really kind of shaped my whole thing with, as far as who I wanted to be, the content I wanted to produce. But I always kept in mind the person who was at the liquor store. This was always my person that I thought of whenever I was creating my content. Here at Liquor Barn in Danville and whatnot, we have this massive wall of bourbons and whiskeys down the entire thing. Huge wall. We're a little spoiled. I get it completely. But I always thought that the person who's standing in front of that thing, they knew Maker's Mark, they knew Woodford, they knew Buffalo Trace, they know those big name brands, but they're looking at hundreds of other labels and they don't know anything about any of those. And so what they do is they grab the red wax because, well, it's what their cousin has on their bar. And that's as informed as most of them get. They live here in Kentucky. They know they're supposed to know, quote, know about bourbon. They just don't. And so they go with the safe options. So really my stuff became, hey, here are some other options out there that are really, really good. And I wanted to focus on those. So for me, a lot of times the stuff that I would grab were shelfers. There are some guys who love to do the bottom, the sub $15, sub $30 shelfers. I really find myself in that $50 to $100 range. I can go over that, but that's really, you can have a good time between $50 and $100 here in the States on a bottle of bourbon.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly my price point. It's funny, we share the exact same ethos about bourbon, right? Like, that's where I live as well. It's like that. For you guys, it'd be 50 to 100. Like, for me, it's probably capped out at about 200 Aussie. So that's what, 61, 20-ish?
Yeah.
Maybe 130. But just going through and like seeing those classic bottles that people aren't typically grabbing, and then just educating the common market on it, because like even in Australia, people are like, oh yeah, you buy bourbon, like I really love Jack Daniels, and you're just like, okay, you clearly have no idea, but let me show you. Let me take you on a little journey. But
right. Well,
it's
and
funny
you were
we
the one
landed
for
on
me to
Jack
get me.
Daniels. That's
You got me to Jack Daniels, and I still cuss you for it, because now I'm not a native Kentuckian, but I have lived here long enough to know what landmines not to step on. That one's usually one, but what was this one? This was the one. This was the one. The Liquor Barn is Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select. This was, you can tell when it was, Quarantine 2020. That's what they named it for Liquor Barn.
Beautiful.
That was their barrel pick. And that was the one. You connected me to Jack Daniel's, because before then I didn't have any Jack on my
Actually,
bar.
You wouldn't believe it. I've got a 2020 pick here too. Let me get this front and center for the camera here. This is a Bourbon Distiller's Smooth Selection as well from 2020.
Nice.
Get that up there.
But now I've got Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Rye. That's another Quarantine 2020 Liquor Barn. Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Barrel Proof. I do.
Barrel
The
proof
Rye Barrel Proof.
Yes, attaboy.
Yeah, that one took a little bit more to come around. I had to wait till the second release on that one to pick that one up, because that one got short quick. But I realized it's like, all right, Jack 7 goes in Coke, and that's about the full extent of it. And the reality is there's a lot of other bourbons in Kentucky that are that way too. Jim Beam White Label. It's a well bourbon. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's fine for a well bourbon. Connoisseurs aren't going the nose. It's whiskey. It's bourbon by definition, and that's what it is. And so that was really cool to have that whole thing opened up to me. But then it really became about trying to educate people. And even now, what I do when I'm on tours with groups, typically we've got a third of the people who are very interested in what we're doing, and the other 2/3 have been drugged there against their will.
How many wives is that? That's the real question. That's
what was the question?
I was like, how many wives have been dragged there against their will? Because that's the
almost every one of them by default.
Yep.
There are exceptions, and they will call your ass out if you make an assumption about them. They will call your ass out, and rightfully so. Truly, rightfully so. But I don't talk to that 30%. They may get something from what I talk about. I'm talking to that middle 30% who maybe has a passing interest in bourbon, but I can tell the story in a way that is engaging for them, that they can begin to learn something more. The other 30% who literally are hostages on this thing, I just hope to be able to connect with them. And that approach has really served me well with tours. Now I'm not soft spoken, but I'm an absolute nerd. I do love storytelling. I'm loud and obnoxious and sarcastic, which really helps. And so we have a lot of fun when we go out, because I'm passionate about what I'm talking about. I go to other distilleries, and you can tell right away for which tour guides this is just a job for. And it's it's whatever, but do the job well. That's fine. Go home at the end of the day. But then you can tell the ones who are like, yeah, we're going to dig deep and we're going to have a lot of fun. And that's really where I tend to hang out with. And one of the main things, one of the real kicks that I like we'll sit down, we'll have a tasting. I'll have about 8 or 10 people. And there's always typically one person, and I look for them. They'll take a sip, and you just get the face, right? Because they're used to vodkas. They're used to tequilas or whatever else. They're used to wine, if anything, and lighter, low-proof drinks. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Not 156 time distilled vodka, but
right.
Vodka all the same.
So they're used to that kind of stuff. And what ends up happening is a couple people around them will start to laugh at them because of the response to the whiskey. And what I like to do, rather than laugh at them, is get their attention. And now I start teaching them, like, hey, now I start telling them about a 2-sip method, which is one that Freddie Johnson has taught me, where you have, a glass of water. This is a dirty ass Glencairn. You have a glass of water in one hand. You take a sip. You hold that water right in your mouth, right under your tongue, and then you sip your bourbon right on top of it. You don't swallow right away, and then you swirl it around in your mouth, and then you drink it. And I have them do that. Everybody else is just along for the ride at this point in the middle of this tasting. And then all of a sudden I watch the eyes light up of, hey, wait, I can drink this. And it's really funny to me because now I've given them something out of this that they did not expect when they came in that day. They thought this was going to be a hostage situation for their spouse, boyfriend, father, whatever else. But now I've given them something that they can enjoy this right alongside. And I tend to call out the machismo bullshit too. The whole, I've got to have uncut, unfiltered, or they'll say some things like, don't add water to whiskey. This is bottled and bonded at 100 proof. Who in their right mind thinks this came out of the bottle or came out of the barrel at 100 proof, right on the money?
Magicians.
I mean, that's it. It's like we just miraculously pulled this stuff at 100 proof. What did we add?
Low barrel entry proof. I don't know.
Right. I mean, it's like we dialed it in, wait till it hits right at 100 proof. 100.0000, exactly 100 proof. Boom. We did it. Dump it. It's ready. Yeah, no, we're adding water to it. And so I always tell them, like, look, if you are only drinking uncut, unfiltered whiskey, fine. That's fine. Beat your chest all day long. But if you drink anything less, if you drink anything that's right at those 114 proofs, that 107s, the 100 proofs, 93, 90, whatever, you've got water in it. At that point, it's just a matter of dialing into your taste. And I like giving them permission to be able to do that. And, it's really funny to start seeing that happen. And now all of a sudden it's like, wait, you watch it in their faces. They go, I get to be part of this now too. And this was something I was here for somebody else, and now I get to be part too. And I love that. I love doing that. And that really, for me, is where I find my joy with this thing, other than just celebrating the spirit. And really, when you go back to it with Barstools and Bourbon, our tagline was originally celebrating all things bourbon. And that really kind of set up the idea in our mind that we weren't going to shit on a bourbon, no matter how bad it was. Jeff's the creed. But you can cut that, but that's fine. we weren't going to shit on bourbons because even if we don't like them, and I think that things are seriously wrong with the way someone is producing something, we weren't going to shit on it. Because I don't carry any weight whatsoever. I am what I am. But if I cost somebody their job because of a podcast that I did, I don't think I could look at myself in the mirror over that. Will somebody enjoy it? Maybe. And if so, then that's their bourbon. You do that. And that really became the whole emphasis for me, is celebrate the bourbon, celebrate the spirit, celebrate the work that goes into it, and push it in a positive light that way. Because you've been on TikTok, you've been on Instagram. There was a wave there for a while where it was shitting on whiskey for clout. And it didn't matter. It still is,
though.
Yeah, I mean, it still is. I mean, what is it? Will It Pot Still? That is one of the favorite ones for people to shit on.
I'm not a fan,
is it a
by the way.
bourbon? Do what?
It's okay. So, you take bourbon country out of it entirely for Australia, we get a limited amount of Willet here. Very, very few bottles. So, for Willet pot still to carry around the same price as what your family estate releases would carry,
right?
It's not great for the amount of money we'd pay for it. But once again, it all comes down to price, palate, however people make the decisions on whiskey. But I'm more curious on not shitting on whiskey, but more not enjoying something and then being vocal about it. Is there a trade-off there? Because you don't have to say you enjoy everything. I would use the scale.
Mine was buy, bar, or pass.
Yeah.
That was my scale. It was never a 10 out of 10. It's buy, bar, or pass. Will I buy it? You bet. Will I try it at a bar or recommend you try it at a bar first and then you buy it? If you like it, great. For me, The last one would be, this is going to be a pass for me, but you can try it. So it wasn't just only doing reviews on stuff I liked, but I'm not going to shit on something intentionally. It could be, this just doesn't match where I'm at with things. And because it's just so too easy to jump into this is just shit whiskey. And
oh, of course, you could do that all day though. Like, there's so many
right.
releases, even from the mega brands, like countless. I even had something like a single barrel pick that my friends did recently, from High West, that I'm like, what is this? There's no way you could have said, let's bottle this and release it, because I'm like, it tastes like watered down habanero.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why? I'm like, for me, no. And that's why, like, early on I adapted the method of what is it? Sip, shoot, or sink. And it's like,
Yep.
you're either going to shoot it like you would a F-worded whiskey that triggers Jeremy, or you'd gently sip it like you would a good whiskey, or you'd sink it like drain pour. Like, it's like, yeah, you might end up with
Well, I
it,
mean,
but are you going to
I've
be
got some
finishing
that
it,
are
or?
like that as well. I've got one. It was a barrel pick from Neely.
Oh, can we talk about Nulu for a second? Because
Let's see, where is that? I think it's up top. I've got it up top for a reason.
yeah, you hide
Because,
that.
well, it's not hidden for it's up out of view is what it is. That's why it's up top.
Yeah, I'd not tell people you have it either. It's
Yeah, this one here, it was called Campfire, and for good reason. And I keep
like
it.
High West, or
No, it's a Nulu. God bless
no,
you.
like a like reference to like High West. So like their campfire was like a little bit smoky, a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah, okay,
that's
cool.
exactly what it was.
Yeah,
It smelled and tasted like campfire, like day old
yeah,
campfire. You know, if you've ever been out camping, you put the thing out, you wake up the next morning, you gather around, you're about to get ready to start up. The kind of damp, ashy, burnt,
yeah.
that type of smoke. Not fresh, nice oak from a nice rolling campfire, but that next morning, all over it.
Ooh,
I keep it not because I'm going to drink it on a regular basis, but because I want to show people the full range of what can happen and what kind of flavors can be out there in whiskey. That's why I keep it. More of a lab type of a setup than anything.
yeah. Did you find your selection of whiskeys, because majority of your bottles are open, did you find yourself leaning more into that side of things, where you'd have friends around and then like discovering their palates? Like, essentially what I do is like get a couple of guys around from work and they're like, oh, I'm curious about whiskey. I'm like, look, rather than going to a bar, come to my place and I'll pour you out 5 mils, taste it in a glass, and we can work out your palate and go, you can just go hard on this one particular brand, one particular bottle you love, rather than going to a bar going, I'm going to pay $20, $30 per like 15 mils, or what is that, half ounce, and like just blow all your cash trying to find something you like when you're blindly picking.
Because this is what's great about this. Everybody asks me, they'll say, they'll see a picture of it. I'll be showing somebody or whatever, and they'll go, "What bar is that?" And I'll say, "It's mine." They go, "No. What's the name?" I said, "It's in my basement."
Yeah.
They're like, "I don't know the name of that bar." No, it's
You're not
at my
listening.
house.
Why
And
are you not listening?
yeah, it's just they're not registering, and that's one thing that I love to do is bring people in and show them. I did it with my brother. Even he came when he was first here. He was kind of hammering out some stuff, helping me build some things. I gifted him a Weller Antique for helping out. He didn't really understand what it was about, so I kind of led him on a journey with it. That's where I really find myself these days. Not so much in the podcasting side of things, but I'm doing outside of my distillery, doing it privately. I'm doing whiskey tastings for people, and that's where I really have a lot of fun. Did a couple groups last year and really said, you know what, I can have a lot of fun with this. And so then what I like to do is the person I'm asking them my kind of questionnaire when I go through is I talk to them and say, what type of things are you looking for with this? Is this just a bachelor party and we're all looking to get snockered and, you want high proof stuff and you want to go from there? Or do you want to go on a journey? What type of journey do you want to go on? You want to go on a bottled and bond journey? Do you want to go on a journey to find out and see how barrels age over time and how that reflects in whiskey? And those types of things. I get off on that. That is the best for me. When I can lead somebody on a journey that way. And it's probably the most rewarding thing that I do these days is to be able to help a group of people go on a journey and watch light bulbs go off in their head, just as they begin to make connections. Perfect example. And the only reason I'm going to use this example is because I know it really well. But we'll just take like a vertical series. So Buffalo Trace has Benchmark is mash bill 1. Benchmark small batch is mash bill 1 at it's over 4 years because it's not age stated, so we know it's there. 90 proof. Buffalo Trace is mash bill 1, 7 to 8 years at 90 proof, and Eagle Rare is minimum 10 at 90 proof. I can take the White Dog from mash bill 1. We can start there, 125 proof with that. That's what goes into the barrel. Now, obviously, we're going to proof down when it comes out, but then we can go on a journey. And then I can go from Benchmark to Buffalo Trace to Eagle Rare and show them how that whiskey develops over time in the barrel. And all that they're changing is location and time in the warehouses. That's it. And to watch that change and watch those light bulbs go off, I love that. That goes right back to my wanting to teach people and have people develop a deeper appreciation on this thing.
The bourbon guy, more like the bourbon educator. You're just like showing people on a little bourbon journey here and I guess discovering their palates, working out what they love so they can go harden the paint. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And that's really what I like. Now, that's what I get to do most of the time when I'm meeting with people. What I'm playing with now is I'm starting to explore different spirits, just for me personally. And we talked about this. We took a little trip up to. Did you release your content on Neely Brothers yet?
Yeah, that dropped. Because that was day 1. Yeah, that is out and about.
Okay, I didn't know if you were doing stills or anything else. I saw some of the videos and stuff on it. Because we went to my place where I work. We toured our place, went around there, and then I was. You were like, "Where are we going next?" I'm like, "We're going to go to Neely Brothers." Neely who? Yeah, that's right. Because it was a little bait and switch because it was like, I want to go to Neely Brothers because of the Absinthe, but they have whiskey you might like. So let's go up there. And we went up there, and I remember it's such a contrast because working with major distilleries, going to their tours and everything else, they all run away from the controversial sides of their histories. Neely Brothers does not.
Oh, no, they dive head first into it. It's pretty much plastered on the walls.
It was crazy. I remember sitting in that video, watching it with you, and we're just watching this video, and it's just us, and because it's a small distillery, and 3/4 of the video, normal whiskey distillery stuff.
I can't wait to talk to Royce about this. I cannot wait.
Yeah. And then the next 5 minutes, there was like 15 fucking murders. Legitimate murders. They are murdering people. And the first one starts with, here's my grandpa's Browning 45 from the Army. He shot a guy in the back of the head with this. It's like, what?
What?
It's like, huh? And that's the first one. And then there's this whole shootout where like a dozen people die or whatever. It's crazy. And then they cut the credits. I remember you and I just went, did I see that? I'm not the only one, right?
Yes.
Ridiculous. They're talking about, here's my papa's gun. See these marks on the back, just in front of the trigger? Yeah, that's not from shooting turkeys. What?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, how, like, it just blew my mind how they didn't have a media team look over this and go, how will this
a media
be
team would have
portrayed?
had a stroke.
Yeah, and like, you got the mega distilleries that are like, all right, we've got to get this clean cut. We got to make sure it looks pretty for the entire market. These guys are like, nah, let's tell everyone about our family history and really just go head first into it.
Lean straight into it. Lean straight freaking into it.
And do you know what? It's a palate cleanser from the rest of the market.
I mean, I fell in love with it because and that's exactly it. Know your market. Know your clientele. I mean, they call one of their whiskeys, the one that they're working with Zycan, Hidden Barn. Come to find out, the Hidden Barn was where Papa used to do his moonshining at, and it was like, oh, I mean, this moonshiner, he would sit. I mean, at like 90 plus years old, be sitting out on this old car, this bench seat from an old Packard or whatever, sitting out there with his wife, just chawing and shooting the shit with everybody, and they'd hand him some money, and 20 minutes later, he'd say, you know what, I reckon I saw somebody hide something over by that tree. You might go over there and take a look. And they go over, grab a bottle of moonshine, and off they go. And it was like, all right.
That's, yeah, literally how they were doing it. I couldn't believe it.
I'm not making, am I making it up?
You're like, complete. That's why I said I cannot wait to have Royce Neely on, because it's just literally just going to ask him about it. So I'll make sure I tee you back up for when we have Royce on as well.
And here comes Royce, and he's got an engineering degree from UK, and he goes, hey, how about we make some money legally with this? And it's like, what? It's like nobody thought about doing that before Royce walks in. They're like, we're doing fine selling Papa's Shine. And I mean, their doubler. I mean, this was the thing I had to check. Their doubler has a plate on it. It's called Old Brownie. That sounds fun. Until you see that the image that's on it is the Colt 45. And I'm like, okay, all right. Here we are at my distillery and so many others, running from anything that appears controversial. I mean, hauling ass from anything that appears it. And they're just like, fuck it, all in. And I'm like, let's go. That sets the tone for everything that comes after on that tour. That was great. I love that. It's been my favorite one so far, and I've been to a lot. It's crazy.
It's, once again, it's just nice to see that families are leaning into their history as opposed to just keeping it clean, because we all know what was happening back then. Like, it's not like Australia doesn't come from a troubled past with like Ned Kelly and the Bushrangers, and like they're pretty open about it around here. But it was like when you go to the US, it's like, no, we got to keep this clean cut and make sure it's family friendly. It's like, why? We're all grown adults. It's not you selling this to kids.
So, and I'm gonna keep names out of this because I might get paid by some of them, but that's fine. You have these major whiskey distilleries here in the United States during Prohibition, and you can link to a Prohibition. What is Prohibition for anybody outside America? And for 13 years, there were 6 central warehouses in the United States that had medicinal whiskey licenses. They weren't making whiskey. All the other distilleries had to send their whiskey to these central warehouses, and all these whiskey companies were waiting to get paid as this stuff was sent out medicinally. For some reason, their stuff just never sold until their companies went bankrupt and they went out of business, and the companies that were holding them went, we got a lot more whiskey now. I guess we'll just sell it. Bro, I mean, that's some gangster level shit right there. I mean, you're just like, yeah, we'll take it. We'll put it up here. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, you went out of business? I guess we'll just sell it.
Yeah, that's. Guess we'll buy your company now. Like,
you think about the level of conniving that went into those decisions, and all the guys are all in suits and ties and everything else. You're like, yeah, okay, I got you. And then you get guys like MGP, Midwest Grain Spirits. Now I don't know what they call themselves now.
Midwest Grain Products.
They just changed names.
Ross and Squibb.
Yeah, Squib something. I mean, what a terrible name. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I don't work for them, but obviously, but they do Remus. Well, Remus was literally a bootlegger, but they kind of hem-haw around it. But he was literally a bootlegger. He's got a body count apparently. Legendarily, he's got a body count, and it's just like, okay. And that brand for them, they release a couple a year, but they don't lean into that thing at all. And the whole reason Indiana even becomes a thing when you're talking about whiskey distillation and alcohol is because all the bourbon was being made in Kentucky, and where do you have to go through to get to Chicago, where all the gangsters were at? Indiana.
Yep.
And so they were on the way. And so these guys were bootlegging up through Indiana, up to Chicago, dealing with Al Capone and all the rest. And it just is absolutely crazy to me. And yet, we just take our foot off the gas around so much of it. But it's such an amazing history to go back and look at. And to see Neely brothers and those guys, Neely family, they're just leaning into that thing. Just chef's kiss. Absolutely love it.
Breath of fresh air. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I am too. So, but yeah, so I just finished off my wilderness trail. If you have any questions, you can ask me a question or whatever. I'm gonna set this next one up. I'm gonna pour out this Neely family. Hold on. Neely's Wormwood Absinthe Verte. Golly, let me put my eyeballs on. Hold on, Jeremy. I'm getting old.
Come off it.
Super.
This guy.
I don't know. There's some French word on this.
We need a translator.
SUPERIEUR, something French. Something moonshine. All right, so they make this absinthe out of moonshine. So
take us through your journey into absinthe then, because as you set up your glass of absinthe here, you got your strainer, your sugar cube, pouring it into that cute little absinthe glass you got there.
Yeah, you got to do it right.
Yeah,
so, now I've always been a black licorice fan. My wife never was. She cannot stand it. So more for me. I love the Good and Plenty's. That I don't know. Do you guys have those down there?
No, we do not. But
so Good and Plenty is basically black licorice with candy coat, like a hard shell candy coating around it, and then that's just all. They're like pink, white, and purple and whatnot.
Oh, you were saying you get these from the Dollar General.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Because we were talking about
it. $1 a box because nobody likes it. So
yeah.
I'm all about it.
Because you were like, oh, you've got to go to the Dollar General and grab yourself some, and I'm like, I can't think of anything worse. But
I mean, down here, Dollar General's that's like Macy's. Come on, man, we're good. It's not that bad, but so.
Oh no, I just don't like licorice that much. I'm like,
well, that's the thing, because I love licorice, and when I started learning a little bit more about absinthe, I started learning more about that it is essentially black licorice flavor. And you see how that went from this color green to the pearl essence?
Super cloudy.
That's how you know it's done right. And that's what you're really looking for. So typically it's like 1 part absinthe and then 2 parts water or so. And then all done by taste. So I was dabbling, just finding some different things. I found one called Grune Fay. Hold on. This is a shit absinthe. It is if you want to make a cocktail that tastes semi-absinthe, that's the one you get. But you're not going to drink that like this. You're not going to do one of these pure absinthe cocktails. And then a buddy of mine, Alan Bishop, he was over at Spirits of French Lake. He's over at Old Homestead Distilling now in Paoli, Indiana. It's southern Indiana. He calls it Hoosier-occupied northern Kentucky, which is a really funny joke if you know anything about Kentucky and Indiana. Probably doesn't translate to Australian, but that's all right. But so when he made this move, all of a sudden he's starting to play around with absinthe. And so I'm like, all right, I want to know more about this stuff. So I took my first sip of absinthe and I was like, that's black licorice. And that is amazing. My company sent me down to New Orleans to do some video work because, I've got a decent resume of filming distilleries and so forth. And so they're like, hey, would you be willing to do this? And I'm like, you're going to pay my way and pay my hotel and pay my food bill for me to go down and shoot some video, which I love to do anyways. Sure, when do I leave?
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, right. I mean, twist my arm. Hold on. It's like go to the negotiating tactic. No, please don't make me go. And so I get down there and I'm connected with one of the best guys. His name is Matt Ray. And he is a spirits. When you talk about spirits and cocktails, this guy is a god. Because his depth of knowledge across spirits as a whole and then cocktails as a whole, I mean, I hyper focus into bourbon and whiskey. He has a library in his brain, and it's insane. And so when I'm down there, I'm asking him, I'm like, all right, I'm here right outside the French Quarter. What bars do I need to go to? He gives me a list. I hit every one of those on that list. Oh my God. Now, other than just the simple fact that New Orleans as a city has basically told the Atkins low carb lifestyle to go fuck itself, because you ain't getting out of there with no carbs. There's no vegan dinners down there. That's not happening. You're gonna have flour in something. You're gonna have. I mean, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So one of them was the old Absinthe House, and it's right on Bourbon Street, not up in the trashy part where they're just selling rum slushy drinks out of big tall souvenir cups and all that garbage. Way farther down. I think historically they say they're the oldest bar in New Orleans. And so I get down there, and it looks like it's out of the late 1700s. This thing looks like it's off a movie set. It's so old, it looks like it's going to crumble into the ground. And I'm like, this is beautiful. And my wife's like, this is it? I'm like, yeah, this is great. So we wait. It's evening. We go in. I sit at the bar. And apparently I found out I have a type. And it's gothed up, tatted up, goth bartender with black hair. And they treat me rude. And they burn absinthe in front of me. And so,
yeah, that's definitely a type.
Yeah, it's a whole vibe. It really is. And my wife was like, you'd end up chained to a wall. And I'd be like, worth it.
Once again,
1,000%.
don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, right. Worth every moment. So I go in and I'm just like, look, I'm an idiot when it comes to absinthe. I'm very, very curious. I'm absinthe curious. There we go. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm absinthe curious. Fred Minnick's going to get some royalties off this one. And so I said, tell me about absinthe. What might I like? And she was kind, and she looked at me and she said, the butterfly is really good. And I'm like, the butterfly? We don't name whiskeys after butterflies. That does not happen. And I'm like, all right, fine. I'm going to take your recommendation because A, you're glorious. B, I'm along for the ride. And she sets this thing up in front of me, and I taste it, and it is literally liquid black licorice. And absolutely delicious. So I have a great time. My wife's just sitting there going, when can we leave? I'm like, never. I'm moving in.
Circling back to the hostage situation.
Yeah, back to the hostage situation. She is the hostage now. A couple nights later, we go to a speakeasy bar called Tatlow down there. And this place, if you've never been to New Orleans, most of the bars down in the French Quarter have a vibe. And they lean into the vibe hardcore. And this speakeasy bar named Tatlow is like occult, voodoo, all that kind of stuff. So if you have spiritual sensibilities, don't go. If you don't, you're like me and you're planning on going to hell and enjoying all the looks on the people's faces who get to join you and didn't think they were. I mean, feel free. You're going to have a good time. That's my favorite part. So we go in there and it's all voodoo, occult, and everything else is very cool. And they have the old absinthe drips. These things are 200 years old. You can run your fingers across them and feel where the water dripping from these water dripping has eroded the bases on these things. Just crazy. And so I go on, take an absinthe flight down there, absolutely fall in love. And I'm like, this is where I'm at. The food is ridiculously good. That's where my wife had a good time. Not that she eats a lot because it was small portions, but it was amazing. She loved it. I loved it too.
Oh, the food down there is incredible.
I mean, I think everybody in New Orleans, after you live there, you have to have a food blog. By law. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So then I come back, and then I start researching some more. That's when I got connected to the Neely family, find out what they're doing up there. But I knew Alan Bishop, so now we're full circle. So I knew Alan Bishop over in Southern Indiana was doing absinthe over there, and he was playing around with some things. And I've been asking him a lot of stuff. He's been kind of like my guide on these types of things. So I go over there. It was what? Oh, well, it was about a month ago. We had a significant flooding event here in Kentucky about a month ago. And I was out of work for a couple days. So you can put things together. Anyway, and so on one of my days off, I was like, you know what? I'm sitting around. I'm bored. I'm going to go to Southern Indiana. And drove over, and it's only like 2.5 hours for me. Drove over, and I sat down with Alan, and we went through about 3 or 4 of his new absinthes that he's doing. And oh my God. I mean, he's got this guy anyways. When he was over with Spirits of French Lick, he would name all of his spirits after one of the whiskey personalities in that area at the time, from William Dalton to Matty Gladden, to Lee Sinclair, all that kind of stuff. He's very spiritual in like astrology and all this kind of stuff. I'm not that. But he was doing all this kind of stuff, and I'm just like, that's a cool ride you're on. I'm going to sit over here. Just drink your spirits, and that's fine. And so when he starts talking about how he's really leaning into absinthe, because he was over at Copper and Kings when they did an absinthe finished bourbon. And I tried, what was it? Peerless does one as well. But they only release it every once in a while. And so I really started getting interested in it. And then he started playing over there, and we sat down for like an hour and a half, and we were just going over all those absinthes. And it's incredible. I mean, it's just got this green, milky kind of pearl color to it. It just...
You describing that doesn't sound appealing. I said you describing that doesn't sound appealing. But like being able to taste that absinthe, like once you add water, we didn't add sugar to it from when we were at Neely, but like once again, it's just watching that color change and trying some. I was like, okay, I can see what all the hype's about. I pulled up a bottle of this absinthe I had sitting in the bar. I probably had it for, I don't know, 7 years, and I noticed it smells absolutely atrocious. Reminds me why I don't like absinthe.
Yeah, and if you don't like black licorice or star anise, you're going to hate most absinthes. Because
every absinthe except the one from Neely, like after having that, I'm like, okay, that's what's up.
It is really crazy. I mean, and here's the thing. In the United States, we banned it for almost 100 years.
Well, you burned bourbon for, what's it, 13 years?
For 13. But so this stuff here is 120.2 proof. So stout. But typically absinthes were 130, 140. I think the Grenfell is, geez, man, don't get old. Let me tell you. I had perfect eyesight till I turned 35. This is 130 proof. This is essentially black licorice flavored Everclear. If you ever,
Beautiful.
I mean, yeah, okay. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's the wormwood. It's hallucinogenic. It's all this kind of stuff and everything else." No, it's 130 proof. You're getting rocked off your socks.
Absolutely.
And then they're all like, blah, 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 it's hallucinogenic. And then the whiskey industry was like, hey, wait, absinthe is really becoming popular. They're eating into our market supply, our market control. How about we work with these people that are saying it's of the occult and hallucinogenic, and we get this stuff banned? And that's exactly what happened. The whiskey industry got in, threw their weight behind it, got it banned. Then you end up with Herb Saint, which comes out, which is essentially absinthe minus the wormwood. And it's the same thing. And now one company in particular owns it and produces it and puts it in the, wait for it, the Sazerac cocktail. So we'll just bring that
Oh.
full circle all the way around. But the only ingredient it's missing is wormwood.
Right. So wormwood's the one they have the issue with.
Right. But this has wormwood in it because it's not
Yeah.
hallucinogenic. It was 140 proof. So I need to recommend you and your, if anybody's still even listening to us at this point.
Yeah. They of course they will. It's
Of
you.
course, of
That's
course.
of course.
Yeah, you're doing me a favor by flattering. There is a book, and it's called Drunk. You could probably look it up quicker than I can because I'm talking to my phone. It's called Drunk, and he traces. This is how much of a nerd I am. He traces the history of alcohol in society from like the origins. I mean, we're going back Mesopotamians. I mean, Egyptian.
By Edward Slingerland.
That
Drunk,
probably
how we
sounds
sipped,
correct.
danced, and stumbled our way to civilization.
That's the one. Great book. He's a professor, so it is on that level. So you're talking undergrad level reading material there.
It's $45 on Amazon.
It is incredible. It's on audio version as well. I highly recommend. If you want to learn, oh god,
Yes, it is.
It is beautiful. It is a great. I love it. I'll probably add it to my annual listening list. But he talks about how in Europe when they were burning witches, because everybody's like, oh, witches, witches, witches. They were just distilling essential oils with alcohols and stuff like that. That's what they were taking the roots, these medicinal roots, and they had the ability to distill. People didn't know it. They didn't know what was going on. All they knew was there was this really powerful, pretty awful tasting stuff that came out on the other side, which for all intents and purposes, yes. I mean, you get 140 proof alcohol and you distill some roots and stuff in it, it's probably going to taste like armpits, and that's fine.
Yum.
And all of a sudden they're like, wow, how did, the wife comes home and she figures out that, wait, the maid's pregnant, and she accuses the husband, and he says, no, it was the witch. She gave me a potion, and that's why she got pregnant. No, you got drunk and screwed the maid. That's why she's pregnant, and you burned her for it. Stop. That was the whole thing. And when you start putting that stuff together, it's like, wait, it all makes sense now. That they were the first ones. These women were the first ones distilling over in Europe. And it was us who caught on later and then basically took it away from them. And now it's this
Allegedly.
whole dominated thing. So great read. Absolutely great read. Highly recommend. But that's when you talk about absinthe, that's what happened with it. Is there was all these accusations that were flying around, and then you had industry lean into it because they're like, look, we want market share, and they got this thing banned for like 100 years, and it only was unbanned. Unbanned, is that even a word? I don't even know. They only removed the ban. They only removed the ban about 10 years ago on wormwood and this stuff.
Right.
10 years. Then we're talking 2015. Just crazy.
Well, I guess Jack Daniel's only, like, I'd say around the same time started letting people taste, buy whiskey at the distillery. So is it really that backwards?
I mean, what do you mean? Is it really that backwards? What's the question?
So like in 2015, they started, like they made, I guess, wormwood not essentially unbanned, if you will. And then like around the same time, Jack Daniel's started allowing retail sales at the distillery through their bottle shop, coming off the back of Prohibition, because it is still a dry county. So is wormwood being like unbanned, if you will, that backwards? I'm like, the country still seems just as backwards. So I'm like, it kind of tracks.
It is. We have a very difficult relationship with alcohol in the United States.
You're telling me.
To say the least. And I mean, we're still, like you said, Lynchburg, Tennessee is in a dry county. They produce more bourbon, and I don't want to hear any of the haters say otherwise, because I'll wrestle you to mat on it. There are very few arguments I'll take it to the mattresses on, and that's one of them. It's bourbon. I don't care. Lincoln County process or not, it's bourbon. But They create more bourbon, more whiskey than any one single place in a dry county, and it's 2025, and they can't even sell it in a store a half mile from the distillery. And so when we talk about the relationship that we've had in the United States with alcohol, it's been one massive headache after another. And it all goes back. I mean, you really end up with a lot of our puritanical roots and all that kind of stuff that really goes back into it and plays a whole lot. And it just gets crazy. But at least we're not burning witches anymore, master distillers. Harlan would really object to that.
You want to talk about things that are backwards, though? You probably can't see it because you got your camera turned around. But I have a bottle of Benchmark that is 37%, and it is still tagged as bourbon.
Because they proof it down when they get to you.
Exactly. So hence why shit is backwards. It's like the fact that they can still call this bourbon. And I was one of the guys that works at Old Carter. I was having a very funny discussion with him, Booth. He was talking about how it can't be called bourbon, like, you know, once it reaches that ABV. And I'm like, if they're shipping it out at 40%, 80 proof, and then proofing it down when they get over here, your bourbon rules don't count. They can do whatever they want to it. Yeah, like once it leaves the United States. Yeah. So it's like...
It's why during Prohibition, we had Mexican bourbon show up. Because it wasn't even until the 1960s that we even decided to say, hey, we're going to protect the brand that is bourbon and actually codify some rules around it. Up until then, it was just a style of spirit of whiskey that came from central Kentucky. That was it. And the only reason that we even know of this, oh God, man, you're pulling on some of my strings today. The only reason we even know that bourbon is bourbon outside of central Kentucky is because we have two major rivers that flow to the Ohio River. And that we have the Kentucky River, and you've got, the Salt River that flows from basically Bardstown, Elizabethtown. And if you're ever trying to look at where bourbon is made in Kentucky, let me tell you, it's on both of those two rivers and the one city where they both join. So you've got Frankfort and that whole string. You've got you got Bardstown up through there, and you've got Louisville. When you talk about the triangle that is bourbon, that's the triangle. That's the whole triangle. The only reason that you know bourbon outside of Kentucky is because of those rivers, and it was able to ship out to St. Louis and New Orleans and then out to the world, all because of the rivers. Otherwise, it would be about as popular as apple brandy from southern Indiana. And that was it, because there was no rivers for them to be able to get it out, and it was just be this localized regional style of whiskey that would be a footnote in some guy's Scotch whiskey or Worlds of Whiskey biography.
The old, Jim Murray Whiskey Bible.
Mm-hmm. It would just be a footnote somewhere. But because of those two rivers, you guys get it in Australia. I told you I was a nerd.
And for that, we are grateful. But look, I've used up enough of your time this, I'd say this morning, but for you this afternoon. Did you want to fire through a couple of questions with me around this little podcast out?
Sure, yeah. What do you got?
All right. What is the weirdest place you've ever tried whiskey?
In my butt.
Did you have perfect proof for your bourbon?
That's such a bad joke.
No, I'm not even going to. I'm going to leave it there. I'm done.
No, the weirdest place I've ever tried whiskey. Golly, it just.
Yeah, butt chug. We'll leave it.
Yeah, butt chug. Yeah, I don't think I've ever done a butt chug of whiskey. That would hurt. That
you can
would
use
probably
37% benchmark if you want.
Yeah, that you could get away with. Anything else probably put you in the hospital.
Yeah. I've got some hazmat baby stag.
I'm pretty standard when it comes to my whiskey drinking. I'm kind of a homebody. I like my my locations. I kind of cater, because when I'm sipping whiskey, there's a reason I'm sipping it. I don't drink it like just to have it in a glass. So for me, and so I'll answer the question this way: the place where I ideally choose to drink whiskey is around my campfire, cigar in hand, listening to, his name is Tyler Childers. He's an Eastern Kentucky kind of bluegrass country singer, non-Nashville sound. You can find him on iTunes, anywhere else. You play that, you light a cigar in my hand, put me beside my fire pit, pour me some whiskey. I'll philosophize with you all night long. That is my vibe right there.
All about it. I'll have to get you back on so we can talk about cigars, though, because you might be able to educate some people. But yeah, what is your perfect proof for whiskey?
107.
107. Okay.
107.
Okay.
I kid you not. I know a lot of people love the bottled and bond stuff. I think some of the regulations about bottled and bond these days are kind of irrelevant. But the distilling season thing doesn't matter anymore. These distilleries have stocks that are so big that a spring season for them could be. I mean, there are distilleries that are filling 2,000 barrels a day. That's 500,000 gallons of whiskey a week. How much of that can you do in 6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to do a bottled and bond out of that, what is it? That doesn't mean anything. Most of them are over 4 years anyways. So like E.H. Taylor, 7 years old. So, or 6, 7 years old. So fine. So that pours out. You already know where it's at, where they're delivered at, or where they're distilled at anyways. So that's all. Some of it's just very redundant. The only thing that you can really taste in a bottled and bond is the 100 proof. That's it. And that's the only big factor. The rest of it is all flex. So not a big bottled and bond fan guy. 107 for me across the board with bourbon tends to be the perfect proof. You get the mouthfeel, you get the concentration of flavors. You are also getting away from a lot of the heavy alcohol proof that tends to push people away. You get very rare occurrences where, like, I've got a bottle of Blanton straight from the barrel. We tasted this one. It's at 122.4. What did it drink? Maybe like a 105? I mean, that's a stupid easy drink.
Drinks like a gold, yeah.
Oh, it absolutely was beautiful. But it was 122.4. But those are rare. Typically for those 130s and everything, drink like, I mean, you just got to take a moment with them. 107 for me tends to be that golden standard across the board. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I know your answer to the next question, but you've landed yourself in a whiskey apocalypse and all the bottles have disappeared but one. What is that dram you'd start the cult around?
Well, where am I at? Where'd I go? Here we go. For now, my whiskey cult is going to be my Wilderness Trail 8-year wheat.
I actually had a feeling you'd say Weller 107, but it is hilarious that you...
It is a very sentimental favorite, but I'm telling you what, this tops it in that. I love Wilderness Trail 8-year. I think this is some of the best stuff that they've produced. I'm waiting for their 10. They did a single barrel last year at $250. Love you, Pat, but no.
Campari pricing. What can you say?
It's like, can a podcaster get a freebie? No, apparently not.
No love.
No, it was what it was. And that's fine too, because they were doing it for charity. But the 8-year wheat is perfect. It's bottled in bond. I would form a cult around Wilderness Trail.
Let's fucking go. Last two for you. What is your most highly rated and currently undervalued whiskey on the market at the moment?
Oh, fuck. Undervalued whiskey. Highly rated, undervalued. All right, that's two.
Highly rated for you and undervalued by the current market. So you had zero prep for these questions too, so I am all about it.
Okay. Easy. You said whiskey, not bourbon, right? That was the
whiskey. It can go. Yeah, it can go anyway because you enjoy. It's whiskey. I've got all different kinds of consumers on here. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing here.
Yeah, the JT
Melon. A couple of bottles. Okay.
Yeah, so that's good enough.
Rapid fire. What's run us through it.
These are the 6 years. So, and I don't want to take more of your time than I already have. But
no, you're fine.
These guys are out of Branch, Louisiana. He actually even signed my wall right over there.
I didn't autograph your wall while I was there. I should have done that.
Oh, no, we should have had you do that. I completely forgot. We were pretty deep into it that night.
Yeah, we were hitting it hard.
So this is their 6-year wheat. Or this is their 6th year. All right. And I need to preface this because when I introduce this to people, I do it very specifically. I make them try it blind every single time without regard. You knew about it anyways, so I didn't make you try it blind. But when I have people try this, I always have them try it blind. There was the other blue one that I was looking for a very specific reason. Because when I say what this is made out of, people have preconceptions about it. And they go off on tangents. Because when I tell you that this is 100% rice whiskey, immediately people go, oh, I don't like sake. Shut the fuck up. Listen to what I'm saying. Rice whiskey is a rice, or sake is a rice wine. Forget all that. And then they'll go, oh, well, I've had Japanese whiskey. Stop it. It's not that either. Japanese whiskey tends to be a lot more along the lines of what Scotch is doing rather than what this is. This is 100% rice whiskey, American rice whiskey out of Branch, Louisiana. He uses 100% of his rice. His mash bill is 100% rice. He's got a 9-day fermentation cycle on this thing. 9 days.
Wow.
That is stupid.
That's like 3 to 6 for you guys.
Three right now is what we're working with. We always say 3 to 5 because if a fermenter gets left over the weekend or whatever. Anyway, it's 3. It's 3 days.
Looks like Jeremy's dropped that
9
there for a
days
second.
because he's not adding enzymes. He's not adding barley, which releases the enzymes